probably just easier to send you a video. So this is it. It's a 40 by 50 pole barn. First thing, what I recommend is, so you don't run into the issues I did, is really spend your time and level out your ground so you don't have to do it after the building's up. As you can see, I'm bringing in a lot of fill, you know, and you're talking 2 feet of fill here, just because my ground is so unlevel from the back to the front of the building. We had to bring in a lot in the front and dig a lot out the back and flatten it, so it's still got, you know, 20 more yards to bring in. But if we did that before I did the poles, it would have been easier, and I'd have more ceiling height. But what I did is I got, I forget how many poles there is. There's about 23 poles, I think, here, or 26. They're 6 by 6 by 16s. So you're gonna do holes in the ground with an auger, hydraulic auger. You could rent one, 12-inch holes. Then you take the back side of a shovel and you just go around the bottom and you kind of just open up the bottom to 16 inches, like a mushroom cap. And that's your footing. You're gonna drop your sonotube in. And then we rented a skid steer. That was the easiest way to put these poles in if you don't have a tractor. And you basically, with the poles are on the ground, you put a chain around the middle, cinch it around, and you put it on the bucket of the skid steer, and you just turn the bucket up. It'll lift the pole straight up. And then you drop it in the hole. You know, you need at least another guy to do it. I did it with 2 guys. I mean, me and another guy. And you're gonna nail, you know, buy a bunch of 2x4s, whatever you're gonna use for grit board, because you're gonna reuse them. Nail one to each side of the pole, like 3 was enough, one on this side and that one, to hold it straight up. And you're gonna use a level, one of those corner levels, to get your pole dead nuts on, you know. And that's assuming you've done all your measuring. Make sure your building's all square. You know, I took a piece of rebar and I squared up the building, stuck it in each corner, and used, I think it's called the 3-4-5 method, to square it up to my measurements with string. Nothing fancy, and it's pretty dead nuts off. I mean, on it might be off like 6 inches a little bit here or there, but you know, you can straighten your poles out later. You know, I still got to straighten this back wall out a little bit, pull it in, but it's, once you put your top plate on, it'll be fine. So as it sits, this is probably about $4,000. The poles, if I remember, were $1,100 delivered, for 6 by 6 by 16 pressure treated poles. Then the sheathing I got from Lowe's, it was like, I bought it in different days, so it was probably about, you're talking $600 in sheathing, which you don't need to do sheathing, but I'm doing cedar siding, and I wanted to be tight because I'm going to spray foam in here, spray foam right up against that sheathing. But you could do a metal siding and nail right to your grit boards on the back, the 2x4s. I spent about, say, another $500 to $600 in 2x4s around, and then the gray boards was another $500 or $600, which I got to do another layer to bring it down, so I don't have to bring in as much fill here. It's easier to dig out the corner than it is to, you know, bring the land up. And then the header boards are 2x12s. And I just nailed them to each side. I've been told by a lot of people I should have cut my poles out and set them inside the pole, basically. It's just hard to do that when you're only working by yourself. But this is fine, because I'm gonna run lag bolts. You know, each pole is gonna have 4 lag bolts or 2 lag bolts that go through it to hold it. And then you got a top plate. And how you meet your headers is you just, you know, you pretty much just system them in there with that bracket there. And then, like I said, on top, I got a top plate that's going up there. It's a 2x8s, 2x8 by 16s, as long as I can get them from Lowe's. And it's really not that hard. It's definitely, you need 2 people to do it. If you're gonna do it yourself, it's doable, but lifting these header boards up is awkward. You know, some of these header boards are, like this one in the front is 20 feet long in the middle. And then the other 2 on the sides are 16 footers. It's, I mean, you got to get 2 guys on a ladder and you just walk it right up and then nail it. You know, you pretty much go up with the way you do your header boards is you pretty much find your pole that's the shortest out of all of them in your whole building, right? Because if you're working on level ground, one of your poles is going to be shorter, you know, whether it's the front or back or whatever. So you go there and you put up your first header board, you level it, and you pretty much level everything off that one you started with, which in this building was that corner there. It's the shortest one to the ground, and went off that one, leveled it, and went right around. Then you go up top with like a sawzall and you just cut the top of the poles off, you know, like blocks that are like, you know, some of my poles I had to cut 6 inches on the top. And what I'm left with here from the ground, this, I mean, I'm just gonna stick a 2x12 to fill up that gap, and then this is as high as the grade will be. You know, the front of the building has to come up. As you can see, it's like a foot there. I got to bring up more dirt to level it out to the back here, get a laser level and check it. And the best way to do it is, I know for sure it's like 12 inches exactly, so I'm going to stick another grade board in there, 2x12 pressure treated, all along the bottom. And you can see it gets wide at there. I'm just going to bring sand up just till it touches it. Then you know that, hey, you're level. And then when they pour the concrete, I'll just pour it up till it touches the bottom of this one. So maybe not even that high. I'll probably do a 4-inch or 6-inch slab in here. So a little bit of grade work. It's not that hard. The only thing I'm running into is, so what I'm seeing here is, what you're seeing here is about 4,000. That's with the poles at 1,100 sheathing. 2x4s, grade board headers is another 3, and that's including the fill. I got a friend who does fill, so I spend $500 on fill, and he works for free. So he just drops the equipment off for me sometimes, and I borrow it. But I have had the rent stuff, and it's like $300 to the day to rent something. But after you do your top plate, I mean, pole barns are really easy to build. I mean, it's just, you know, I wish I saved up the money to do it all at once, but the trusses are going to be, I got quotes for trusses already built. They're anywhere from $6,000 to $6,500. Then you got to buy a bunch of 2x6s to build your purlins and all your brackets to connect all your trusses along the webbing. And then you need 2x6s all as well to do the bracing, like horizontal bracing against all the stuff. The webbing and the cords, they call them, bottom cord and top cord trusses. So there'll be common trusses instead of scissors trusses on this building, just because it's not perfectly straight. But I'll have 12-foot ceilings, so I can put a car lift in here and start my business up. But yeah, so so 10,000 in probably wood, you know, trusses and all that. Metal roof, I have no idea. Somebody on the Facebook page told me 4,000 in material. I'll be honest with you, I probably won't do the roof because I'm not cool on heights, like being up that high. That's going to be up almost 20 feet in the middle, and I just don't want to do it. So if I can find a guy who does metal roofs and he just does them all day, and I can pay him $10,000 or $8,000 to put a roof on, I think it'd cost me about $8 if the material's only $4. If he does it for $8, I mean, he's buying a, you know, he's doing it for a good payday at $8, if you ask me. But I'd rather have somebody do it once the trusses are on. But the way we're gonna do trusses is there's 26 trusses to complete this building when they get here, and I'm gonna put them all together on the ground, one big section in the middle. I'll build it inside the building. So they're gonna run this way, right? The trusses will run this way, so I'll build them this way. So they'll be 40 feet long. The building is 50 feet wide this way, so you'll have 5 feet on each side. And I'll build half the roof in here, and then half the roof in the front of the building. So we'll have the crane guy. I'll hire a crane guy for the day, and I've been told that's $800 to $1,000. If everything's done, it should be 2 pieces. He'll come and lift the entire left side of the roof, and we'll place it up. We'll have one guy on this side, one guy on that, one on the left side, one in the middle. So it's like a 4 or 5, you know, more guys you have to do trusses. I've never done this before, so I'm assuming I'll get 5, 6 guys here to help me, and somebody who's done construction before to help me. We'll put the left side on, and then we'll put the right side on. That way, with the 2 big pieces, and they should be straight as hell because they were built on the ground, be minimal lining up. You'll just be lining up your overhang, you know, 1 foot on the front. Just make sure, you know, run a string or something in the front. Just I really could care less what it looks like in the back. I want it to look good, but once that up, I'll run cedar siding. I'm sure that won't be cheap, and the metal roof I'll pay someone, and then a slab. My material cost locally was $116 a cubic yard, and the calculator said it was about $4,200 in material. But I'm being told by friends who've done concrete, like, nah, you could get the material way cheaper. So $116 a yard, I was told, is expensive. So you can get it for cheaper if you just hunt around with people. And I'll have, I mean, I was gonna smooth it out. I've never done that either. So I think I'm just gonna pay concrete guys and just also reach out to friends who do concrete work. I guess more of associate people that I know that do it, and see if they'll give me a better deal. Probably not, but that's what you do, is you just keep hunting until you find that price. And it's not perfect by any means, but once it's cedar sided and stuff, you're not going to be able to tell. I mean, it's going to look good, but I'll show you. This building ain't perfectly straight. It's pretty dead nuts on, but I mean, that's looking down the left side. It's pretty damn straight. At the top there, the header boards really pulled it in, but the back wall needs adjustment. To adjust it, you know, you run a string from the back of that corner to that corner, and you take a come along and you just pull the metal poles till they touch the string. And then once it's all straightened out with the come along, you know, you start on one side, you work it, and then nail the top plate down. Boom, 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 boom. And that's my fault, because when I first started digging my holes for my poles, I had rebar stakes in every 4 corner, and I ran a string. I put the poles in until they touched the string, and then just everything looked good. And then you don't realize this yellow pine, it bows. It bows after being in the weather for a little bit. I mean, you can see this one's got a little curve in it to the left. See how it's kind of, one of these poles is really bowed out. It's this one. The bottom's straight. You can see the bottom is straight on, but I mean, as you go up, you can see this pole just curves. So take that come along, you pull it out, nail your top plate on, it'll straighten out. But yeah, it's not too bad. I think most people could do this, but if you want my advice, I would have a good starting budget of $8,000 to $10,000 just saved up, so you can buy all the material you need at once and just get it here. And I mean, preferably what I would do, if I could do this all over again, the stuff you can get at the lumber yard, the sheathing, the 2x4s, the grit board, all that, I would just not buy that right off the bat. I would get your poles on order, because these 16 footers, they don't have them at like your regular Lowe's. You got to go to a lumber yard. Has to be in ground, pressure treated, special like pressure treated, because you have ground contact PT and then you got in ground PT. So you order your poles, order your headers, because I'd get as long as headers as you can. I got 20 footers, so you could hit as many poles as you could in one thing. And when you do your headers, make sure that you don't have a header that ends in the middle of your wall section. You got to cut it to length so it ends on the meets in the poles. So what I mean by that is, like, just meets right there, just hit it with the nail gun, and then you're gonna take some lag bolts and run them through there, like 12-inch lag bolts or whatever. Tighten it up with an impact gun or something. But yeah, order your poles, order your header boards, and you don't have to do sheathing right off the bat like I did, or you may not even do sheathing at all if you're doing metal on the sides. But I would wait to the end to do that. I did it before because I have a huge construction company behind my house and I just didn't want to look at them anymore, so I sheathed it up. So yeah, but definitely the biggest nut to choke on here is the trusses. And if you get everything here, it's just so much easier to get this done in one summer. You know what I mean? A couple weeks you could knock this out if you have all the material here. It's taken me all summer to do this, but if I had the trusses here now, I would already have them on the building. So save up like 10 grand and that will cover your trusses, your poles, and your header boards and your top plate. And you don't even have to worry about grade board yet. Save that for last, you know what I mean? Just get it so you can get a roof on the thing and then decide what you want to do for side. And if you want to sheathe it up, it's cheap. You could Tyvek it, vinyl side it, or metal side it. But yeah, there's different options.